Okay.
So how big a place you think? I should have looked it up on the map. How large is the Cedars of Lebanon? I mean, they're talking about all of this beautiful hardwood.
Yeah.
It must be a massive, massive forest.
Yeah. I'm thinking they're probably old trees.
Uh-huh.
All right.
That's what it says, old.
Yeah. Because usually when they chop down the really good trees, they replace them with pine because it grows fast.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's what we do now. That's probably not what they did then.
well, let's see. Let's start verse 1-5. Loa, do you want to start?
What's up there?
Chapter 7.
Okay. It took Solomon 13 years, however, to complete the construction of his palace. He built the palace of the forest of Lebanon, 100 cubits long, 50 wide, and 30 high, with 4 rows of cedar columns supporting trimmed cedar beams. It was roofed with cedar above the beams that rested on the columns. 45 beams, 15 to a row. Each window were placed high in sets of 3, facing each other. All the doorways had rectangular frames. They were in the front, but in set of 3, facing each other.
Okay. So the end of last chapter said they spent 7 years building the temple. And he put that first to build that before his palace. And his palace took 13 years to build.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. And it says they had windows now. It doesn't necessarily mean they had glass, but archaeologically, they did have glass at that time.
They did?
Yeah, they did, which is fascinating to me. Yeah. Okay, verse 6-8, Stephanie.
He made a colonnade 50 cubits long and 30 wide. In front of it was a portico, and in the front of that were pillars and an overhanging roof. He built the throne hall, the hall of justice, where he was to judge, and he covered it with cedar from floor to ceiling. And the palace in which he was to live, set farther back, was similar in design. Solomon also made a palace like this hall for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had married.
Okay. So he has a palace in the front, a palace in the back that is his living quarters. So it's all connected, but he has to think about this. The king is the one who presided over the court. So he had to have a big courtroom as part of his palace that was being built. And who knows whatever other government rooms he really needed to have. It wasn't all just for his own personal stuff. And then he had some built for Pharaoh's daughter too.
But he married Pharaoh's daughter.
Yeah. So that was part of the peace treaties between countries at that time.
Offer you a wife.
Yeah. So
Many, I don't know
Yeah.
how many he had.
yeah, please marry my daughter. And I know you'll take good care of her. And so then I won't feel like conquering your country, sending my army over there because my daughter's over there and she might get hurt. That was the thinking behind it.
But what do you do with all the other wives?
He built them places to live and temples to worship
not
in.
connected to his place. Huh?
So which one continued in the line? Was it Pharaoh's daughter and Solomon? Did they have a son that it went through the line? I wonder.
I wonder who Rehoboam's mother was.
Huh.
I'll have to look that up. That's a good question. Who's Rehoboam's mother?
We don't have a name for Pharaoh's daughter.
Yeah, she's not significant, I guess. All right. 9 through 12, Joyce.
All these were made of costly stones, hewn according to measure, sawed with saws, back and forth, even from the foundation to the coping, and from the court of the house of the Lord to the great court. The foundation was of costly stones, huge stones, stones of 8 and 10 cubits. And above were costly stones hewn according to measurement and cedar. The great court had 3 courses of hewn stone round about, and a course of cedar beams. So had the inner court of the house of the Lord and the vestibule of the house.
Okay, so remember a cubit is about 18 inches.
Yeah.
So. Okay,
So what kind of stone we're talking about? Costly stone.
Granite or marble, probably.
I would think.
yeah.
Costly would, you would think it'd be marble.
I was looking on the internet about they have a mine that you can go and visit around Jerusalem. And so they've got it all, they have red lights shining on the inside, just looks beautiful. But the stone, they say it's not granite, but it looks just like granite.
So
Yeah.
it is, so that's what they use.
So that's probably what they use for a lot of the building that we hear mentioned
The
here.
thing is, granite don't look like one thing. You know, there's shades and patterns and everything.
Oh,
else.
yeah.
Granite, I mean,
Yeah,
it's just an ugly gray rock.
okay. 13 and 14, Paul.
And King Solomon sent and brought Hiram from Tyre. He was the son of a widow of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in bronze, and he was full of wisdom, understanding, and skill for making any work in bronze. He came to King Solomon and did all his work.
Okay, so we had the king of Tyre, which is Hiram, and this one's named Huram. So they're not the same person, obviously, because this one is a craftsman. And he's going to make all the bronze work that goes outside. The inside is gold, outside is bronze.
Did it say gold?
Right,
Never
but-
see it.
Well, the inside of the
They said it
temple.
like
And the
everything.
temple is.
Last
gold.
week.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
this
the
is the
house.
palace.
Oh, that's right.
I've never heard
Didn't
anything
say
that he said was any gold. in the
No,
palace. It
but
was
now we're
silver.
going back to the temple again.
Oh, we are, oh,
Yeah,
oh, temple furnishings, okay.
yeah. So it's kind of confusing how it goes back and forth. All right. 15. Let's see. 15 and 16. Dorothy?
Okay. He cast 2 pillars of bronze. 18 cubits was the height of the one, and a cord of 12 cubits would encircle it. The second pillar was the same. He also made 2 capitals of molten bronze to set on the tops of the pillars. The height of the one capital was 5 cubits, and the height of the other capital was 5 cubits.
It's 5 cubits high. That's 7.5 feet for the capital that's at the top of the column. It was 7.5 feet high. That's huge. Okay. 17 through 20, Lua.
A network of interwoven chains adorned the capitals on top of the pillars, 7 for each capital. He made the pomegranate in 2 rows, encircling each network to decorate the capitals on top of the pillars. He did the same for each capital. The capital of the top of the pillars in the portico were in the shape of lilies, 4 cubits high. And the capitals of both pillars above the pole-shaped part next to the network were the 200 pomegranates in rows all around.
Okay, 21 and 22, Stephanie.
He erected the pillars at the portico of the temple. The pillar to the south he named Jankin, and the one on the north to Boaz. The capitals on top were in the shape of lilies, and so the work on the pillars was completed.
Okay, so he actually gave the columns names. So Jachin means he shall establish, and Boaz, in him is strength. Okay. 23 through 24. Joyce?
Then he made the molten sea. It was round, 10 cubits from brim to brim, and 5 cubits high, and a line of 30 cubits measured its circumference. Under its brim were gourds for 30 cubits compassing the sea round about. The gourds were in 2 rows, cast with it when it was cast.
Okay. All 25 and 26.
It stood upon 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. The sea was set upon them, and all their hinder parts were inward. Its thickness was a handbreadth, and its brim was made like the brim of a cup, like the flower of a lily. It held 2,000 baths.
Okay, so this is a huge bowl, and we've got a picture, or not a picture, but a drawing by an artist of, using that information, what it probably looked like. And it held 11,500 gallons of water. So it would need a pretty good foundation to carry that kind of weight, because water is heavy too, let alone bronze.
But he has an inlet for it.
Well, yeah, this artist is thinking, how are they getting the water in there?
Yeah.
Probably from up above would be easier than trying to throw stuff from underneath. And I thought, you know what, that's really logical. That's really good.
Yeah, right.
So it's 15 feet in diameter, but 7.5 feet high. So actually it would look a lot wider compared to the height. That's the main thing the artist got wrong on that. And as we talked about last time, the Bronze Sea and the pillars were destroyed by the Babylonians. And it talks about that in 2 Kings 25, 13 through 15. So that's kind of a sad thing to think about. All this beautiful artwork dedicated to God, and it was all destroyed eventually.
Because this looks like it's really big, but it shouldn't be that tall.
No, it's
No.
only 7 foot.
Yeah,
Yeah, it should be twice as wide as it is tall.
unless the Israelites were
Don't
4
look,
feet.
don't look at, going the whole length. It is sitting on the oxen, so it doesn't go the whole
Oh,
height.
you're saying this is only 7 feet.
Yeah. 5 cubits high. So it's not that, in the picture, it's not that deep because it's sitting on those oxen.
And eventually those oxen were removed and given to one of the kings that was attacking them in the future. And so they just had the bowl set on a rock that was made for it. But I think that's better. I'd rather it not have the bowls. Bowls remind me too much of the golden calf
Yeah.
that was made,
So
in
what's the significance
Exodus.
of them here?
They
I mean, is it just
just
decoration? or-
really love bulls.
Okay.
When they had this stuff made, when the two countries decided to split. And so Jeroboam's like, well, I'm gonna make my own temple for people to worship at, my own altar, and I'll make my own big bath bowl thing. And he used, I think he used golden calves. I have to double check on that, but he used calves too. So calves were a big thing. I know, I look at that too. What's the deal with calves?
But that's, don't forget, they are doing the sacrifice with the blood of the heifer. That's, we're talking about the Israelites. Not us, we're thinking of the blood of Jesus. And now when they are ready to build their third temple, they bring all these cows, specialists for what they call those red cows.
Red heifer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah, very good. All right, so we're going to talk about the stands next. There's the artist's rendition of what he thought the stands looked like, and on that black and white copy, there's another rendition by an artist of what he thought the stands would look like. And it amazes me how a lot of times they don't really use the information that's there in the Bible to help us out. Okay. 27 through 29.
He also made 10 movable stands of bronze. Each was 4 cubits long, 4 wide, and 3 high. This is how the stands were made. They had side panel attached to upright. On the panel between the uprights were lions, bull, and cherubim. And on the upright as well, above and below the lions and bull were work of hammered work.
Okay.
Oh, it's supposed to be here.
Dorothy, could you do 30 through 33?
Okay. Each stand had 4 bronze wheels and axles of bronze. At the 4 corners were supporters for a basin. The supports were cast with wreaths at the side of each. Its opening was within the crown, whose height was 1 cubit. Its opening was round as a pedestal is open. It was 1.5 cubits wide. At its opening, there were carvings, and its borders were 4-sided, not round. Was that where I should go to 32?
That's good. Let's stop right there. So looking at the pictures so far, what is wrong with this picture?
It's round and there's no frame.
Yeah, there
There's no
should be
square
panels,
frame
right?
around that, the basin or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So I like the one on the black and white picture better.
Well, that's more like this.
Yeah.
They had lions and bulls and cherubim, but I don't see. that
So
on the
this is
top.
what we have, Dorothy.
Oh, okay, there's the picture. Oh, all right.
Yeah. Except we don't like the
Little wagons.
little wagons. We think this is a better rendition here. Let's see.
Uh-huh. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
okay.
Lions and bulls. I wonder if they're on the sides.
They're on the sides there. You can just make them out. There's a bull.
Yeah, I think it's.
There's a
descriptions
lion.
on the sides. Yeah, I can see
Wings, they
the
all have
lion.
wings.
But you can't see the other side, so.
Oh, mine in my Bible doesn't have that.
Yeah, you can see.
Oh, it looks like there's two bulls facing each other on the one side, 2 lions facing each other. There's So the cherubim and must be on the back side.
And all the carts were made to look the same. Now, the big bowl was used to wash their hands and feet. The priests. And the little movable ones were used to wash the sacrifices. Okay, 32 and 33, Stephanie.
The four wheels were under the panels and the axles of the wheels were attached to the stand. The diameter of each wheel was 1.5 cubits. The wheels were made like chariot wheels. The axles, rims, spokes, and hubs were all of cast metal.
Okay. Any questions or comments so far?
They were able to do all that cast metal and make that kind of stuff.
I know, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? And all that done under the supervision of Urim from Tyre.
Yeah, who in the world had a vision for all of this?
Yeah,
I mean, surely Solomon didn't have.
I mean, they had the old movable tent, the tabernacle, to go by, but this is above and beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, 34 through 37, Joyce.
There were 4 supports at the 4 corners of each stand. The supports were one piece with the stands. And on the top of the stand, there was a round band 1/2 cubit high. And on the top of the stand, its stays and its panels were of one piece with it. And on the surface of its stays and on its panels, he carved cherubim, lions, palm trees, according to the space of each, with wreaths around it, round about. After this manner, he made the 10 stands. All of them were cast alike, of the same measure and the same form.
All right. 38 through 40, Paul.
And he made 10 lavers of bronze. Each laver held 40 baths. Each laver measured 4 cubits, and there was a laver for each of the 10 stands. And he set the stands 5 on the south side of the house and 5 on the north side of the house. And he set the sea on the southeast corner of the house. He also made the pots, the shovels, and the basins. So Hiram finished all the work that he did for King Solomon on the house of the Lord.
Okay. So let's see what those, you're going to talk about those items, 41 through 45. Dorothy, did you do 41 through 45?
Okay. The 2 pillars, the 2 bowls of the capitals that were on the tops of the pillars, the 2 lattice works to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals that were on the tops of the pillars, the 400 pomegranates for the 2 lattice works, 2 rows of pomegranates for each lattice work to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals that were on the pillars, the 10 stands, the 10 basins on the stands, the 1 sea, and the 12 oxen underneath the sea. Want me to read the next verse too?
Yes, verse 45.
The pots, the shovels, and the basins, all these vessels that Hiram made for King Solomon for the house of the Lord were of burnished bronze.
Okay, let's stop there. So yeah, the outside is bronze. Okay, 46 and 47, Lua.
The king had them cast in clay molds in the plain of the southern between Succoth and Serereth. Solomon left all these things unweighed, because there were so many, the weight of the bronze was not determined.
So they're cast in clay molds. Wow. Amazing. Okay, 48 through 50. Stephanie?
Solomon also made all the furnishings that were in the Lord's temple. The golden altar, the golden temple on which was the bread of the presence, the lamp stands of pure gold, 5 on the right, 5 on the left, in front of the inner sanctuary. The gold floral work and lamps and tongs. The pure gold basins, wick trimmers, sprinkling bowls, dishes, and censers. And the gold sockets for the door of the innermost room, the most holy place, and also for the doors of the main hall of the temple.
Okay. Joyce, 51 to
That's a
the.
lot of polishing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Grief.
Good thing it wasn't all made out of sterling silver.
Oh, no. Awful.
Okay, 51. Joyce,
Okay. Thus all of the work that King Solomon did on the house of the Lord was finished. And Solomon brought in the things which David, his father, had dedicated, the silver, the gold, and the vessels, and stored them in the treasures of the house of the Lord.
okay. All right, so now we're going to talk about the ark. So the ark has been in the original movable tabernacle. And we're going to see some things are missing in a little bit. Chapter 8, verses 1 and 2. Paul?
Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the leaders of the fathers' houses of the people of Israel, before King Solomon in Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Israel assembled to King Solomon at the feast in the month Ethanim, which is the 7th month.
Okay. So the city of David is just the lower part of that Jerusalem. It would be what we would consider outside where the temple is now. Okay, 3 through 5. Dorothy?
And all the elders of Israel came, and the priests carried the ark. So they brought up the ark of the Lord, the tent of meeting, and all the holy vessels that were in the tent. The priests and the Levites brought them up. You want me to read 5?
Yes.
King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel who had assembled before him were with him before the ark, sacrificing so many sheep and oxen that they could not be counted or numbered.
Okay. So how did they bring the ark to Jerusalem the first time before this?
Carried it.
It's close. Yeah, they had it on a cart and it was falling off.
Oh,
And one guy caught it and he died. And David was really upset that God had killed this man and saved the ark from falling over, but they hadn't brought it correctly because they're bringing it on wheels. How's it supposed to be carried? Yeah, by hand. They have poles. Yeah. So you carry it by the poles and it's not going to have the trouble that a cart would, but you know, carts are, I'm sure how they did it when they have the similar type of, you know, other countries had something close to the Ark of the Covenant. They would have their own little thing that would be on a cart that would represent their God. And I'm sure they all did it with carts, but the Jewish people were different. And he had the priests carrying it, which is another good job. Okay, so they brought that, let's see. So they brought it, sacrificing so many sheep and cattle in verse 5 that they could not be recorded or counted. Where's all this sacrifice going? You gonna dump it in the garbage?
That- Probably they burned it.
Yeah, they cooked it and they ate it. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a time, that's why it was such a big time to rejoice at these festivals they would have, because they would have giant barbecues going on. And that's, at those times you needed all of the stuff. They'd have extra priests there. They would use all of those little carts full of water. They would use everything, and sometimes that would still not be enough. They'd have to borrow some extra stuff to cook everything. So yeah, it was a big feast, a big festivity, and people were mostly farmers. Vegetables were cheap. Meat was expensive. So to have the meat was really a big pleasure for everybody to have. And they had so much sheep and cattle. So you had your choice that they couldn't be recorded or counted. Okay. 6 through 9.
The priest then brought the ark of the Lord's covenant to its place in the inner sanctuary of the temple, the most holy place, and put it beneath the wings of the seraphim. The seraphims spread their wings over the place of the ark, and overshadowed the ark and its carrying poles. These poles were so long that their ends could be seen from the holy place in front of the inner sanctuary, but not from the outside the holy place. And they are still there today. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 stone tablets that Moses had placed in it at Horeb, where the Lord made a covenant with the Israelites after they came out of Egypt.
Okay. So you have 2 sets of cherubim. One set is in the Holy of Holies, and it reaches from the edge to the center, and the other cherubim from the center to the other edge. So it's quite huge. So it was 30 feet. That the Holy of Holies was 30 feet by 30 feet by 30 feet. Just this one golden cube. And so you had these huge cherubim in it, and they came in with the Ark of the Covenant and placed it next to those big cherubim. And they have some extra long handles this time. I don't think the handles were that long originally, but you could actually see them from the inside of the temple, that they were in the Holy of Holies. That's interesting, an interesting footnote there.
They probably had to been long so you could have enough guys carrying that ark, because it was gold, right?
Yeah, it's
And it
gold
was
plated.
Yeah, but it was heavy.
Yeah,
So you didn't have just short little rods and, one guy on each corner.
yeah.
I'm sure you probably had,
The cherubim, I think, were solid gold, but the ark itself was gold plated wood.
but even that, it's
Yeah.
still gonna be heavy, so you're gonna have 2 or 3,
Yeah,
trying to carry that weight.
and I'm sure they didn't want to have it fall again.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, question I have, verse 9, there was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets.
Yeah. So what's missing?
Aaron's rod,
Right.
Mhm.
and then there was something else, right?
Yes.
There's Aaron's rod.
What was the other one, Laura?
Manna.
Yeah,
Okay.
the gold jar of manna.
The manna, that's right.
Now, I imagine, somebody's, well, let me say this, that, where did I write that down? In 1 Samuel 4:11, it mentions that the ark was captured by the Philistines.
Hmm.
And that was in 1141 BC. Now we're talking about 1004 BC. So about 140 years later. It's amazing how time flies in the Bible.
Yes. Just 100 years here, 500 years there.
They took the Ark of the Covenant. Anybody remember what happened? The Philistines took the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, they
Oh,
big trouble.
What happened, Dorothy? Do you remember?
No. What
Okay.
did they do?
Right, actually died.
Well, they placed it next to their god, Dagon, which was a
Oh,
human body
no.
with a fish head.
Hmm.
And they got it the next day, and their statue was knocked over. So they figured, oh, this is a mess. And they put some gold tumors in it, gold in the shape of tumors, and put that as an offering inside of it, and then had some oxen with a cart carry it back towards Israel. So Israel would.
Didn't
Take
it
it
do
back.
more to that town or something that it was?
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah.
made them sick. That's why they had the tumors. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started to kill people and they thought, okay, we can do this thing.
We had a black.
A plague, yeah. So, but I can imagine them looking inside there and going, ooh, there's a jar made out of gold. We'll take that. I don't know why the staff that had budded disappeared. That's when Aaron's staff was when the people were saying, why is Aaron in charge, Moses? Why not our tribe? Why aren't we in charge? And Moses was so upset. He said, okay, everybody bring a rod, a staff, and put the head of your tribe's name on it. And so we'll put Aaron on his name on this staff. And you guys bring your staffs and we'll place them at the front of the tabernacle. And we'll see what happens. And Aaron's actually budded, and it actually had almonds on it. So we know his staff was made out of almond wood. But that was the answer. So everybody's like, okay, we give up. Aaron's in charge. We don't want to make God angry.
Let's see, Moses' rod could turn into a snake. Now Aaron's could turn into a living tree.
Yeah, exactly. The miracles of God. It's just amazing. Yeah, and it's interesting when I read, because I love reading history, when I read ancient stories from Egypt, miracles are commonplace. They consider it magic. But like the Pharaoh was out with a bunch of women and one girl dropped her bracelet. So he turned to his court magician and said, she dropped her bracelet. Can you go get it? And so according to their folklore, the magician folded the water back so they could get the bracelet. Now, can you see how this relates to the folding of the Red Sea?
Mhm.
See, this is showing power that they understand. And that's why the court magicians were kind of looking at Moses like we can do quite a bit too. Okay. Verse 10, through 13. Whose turn is it? Your,
Is it mine? When the priest withdrew from the holy place, the cloud filled the temple of the Lord. And the priest could not perform their service because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled the temple. Then Solomon said, the Lord has said that he would dwell in a dark cloud. I have indeed built a magnificent temple for you and a place for you to dwell forever.
okay, let me read Exodus chapter 40. It says 40, verse 34. Says, then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting because the cloud had settled upon it, and the glory of the Lord filled the temple. In all the travels of the Israelites, whenever the cloud lifted from above the tabernacle, they would set out. But if the cloud did not fit or did not lift, then they did not set out until the day it lifted. And we know about God guiding them as a cloud and as a fire, pillar of fire at night. So this is really an expected symbolism, you know, that God would do this, that he would fill the temple with his glory, and that would be shown in the form of a cloud. Okay, verse 12.
About 14.
Oh, are we at 14? Okay, so again, in verse 12, Solomon said that the Lord had said he would dwell in a dark cloud. And I have indeed seen built a magnificent temple for you to dwell in. Okay, verse 14 through 16, Joyce.
Then the king faced about and blessed all the assembly of Israel, while all the assembly of Israel stood. And he said, blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who with his hand has fulfilled what he promised with his mouth to David, my father, saying, since the day that I brought my people Israel out of Egypt, I chose no city in all of the tribes of Israel in which to build a house, that my name may be there. But I chose David to be over my people Israel.
Okay, all 17 through 19.
Now it was in the heart of David, my father, to build a house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. But the Lord said to David, my father, whereas it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build the house, but your son who shall be born to you shall build the house for my name.
Okay. And 20 and 21, Dorothy.
20 and 21. Now the Lord has upheld the promise that he made, for I have risen in the place of my father David. I sit on the throne of Israel, as the Lord promised, and have built the house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. There I have provided a place for the ark in which is the covenant of the Lord that he made with our ancestors when he brought them out of the land of Egypt.
Okay. So next we're going to have Solomon's prayer of dedication, but let's do that next week. We'll stop here. And I will stop the recording.